Hi everyone. In this short video presentation, I'm going to explain you some basic facts about the immune system and how immune system works. I'm Dr. Mo. I'm associate professor from Newcastle University. So let's start with some basic facts about the immune system. Basically, the immune system is a complex network of proteins, cells, tissues, and organs that acts as the body's primary defense against pathogens such as bacteria, viruses, fungi, and cancer cells. There are many components in this system, for example, cells that include macrophages, dendritic cells, neutrophils, basophils, eosinophils, monocytes, and neutrophil cells. We have many organs in this system, such as bone marrow, liver, spleen, and thymus, that is located just anterior to the heart. They all work together by identifying, attacking, and destroying pathogens. There are a few basic terminologies that you need to understand when you start learning about the immune system: active immunity versus passive immunity, and innate immunity versus adaptive immunity. So, the first terminology you need to understand is active immunity and passive immunity. So, what is the active immunity? It is the immunity that results when your own immune system produces antibodies in response to the presence of pathogen or a vaccine. The key features of this active immunity are: one, these antibodies are produced by your own system. Two, it can be a long lasting response because your immune system can create memory cells. And three, it may be a bit slow to take effect because your immune system requires time to build a response. One of the examples of this type of immunity is that you get infection such as chickenpox, then your body produces antibodies against chickenpox and you are protected for life. And this type of immunity is called natural active immunity. Another example is that you get vaccine against chickenpox and hence your body produces antibodies against chickenpox and you are protected for life. This type of immunity is called artificial active immunity. Okay, these are all about active immunity. How about passive immunity? It is a type of immunity that results when antibodies are transferred from one individual to another, providing temporary protection without the recipient's immune system having to do the work. The key features of passive immunity are: one, antibodies are acquired from another source. It means you receive ready made antibodies. Two, this immunity is short lived. It lasts only weeks or months because no memory cells are created. And three, the good thing about this immunity is that it gives you immediate protection. One of the examples of this type of immunity is that antibodies are passed from mother to baby through placenta or breast milk. This type of immunity is known as natural passive immunity. The other form of passive immunity is receiving an injection of antibodies after being exposed to a toxin from snake bite or giving antibodies to neutralize a virus such as COVID-19 SARS-CoV-2 virus. And this type of immunity is called artificial passive immunity. Okay, let's move on to the next terminology that you should know is innate immunity and adaptive immunity. Let's start with innate immunity. It is the first line of defense you are born with. It is a generalized response that does not target any specific pathogens. It acts as a barrier and it provides a rapid response to any pathogen or foreign invader. For example, your skin and mucous membrane act as a barrier, and your tears, saliva, and stomach acid can rapidly kill the pathogens that enter your body. Moreover, if pathogens pass through this barrier, your immune cells, such as macrophages, dendritic cells, and other cells, can kill the pathogens. Okay, let's move on and see what the adaptive immunity is. It is also known as acquired or specific immunity. It is a specialized response that can learn and recognize specific pathogens. It creates a targeted attack complete with memory for future encounters. And it is the immunity that develops over a lifetime. The major components of this immunity are lymphocytes. B lymphocytes are responsible for antibody production, and T lymphocytes are responsible for cellular destruction via production of cytokines. Okay, now let's see the differences between innate and adaptive immunity. The most important difference between these types is specificity. The response by innate immunity is non-specific, meaning that it responds to all pathogens in the same general way, whereas the adaptive immunity responds with a specific way. It recognizes and targets the specific antigens, for example, a specific strain of flu virus. The second difference is the speed of response. The innate immunity responds within minutes to hours, whereas the adaptive immunity takes a few days, typically 3 to 7 days, to respond upon exposure. The third difference is whether it has memory. The innate immunity has no memory. If the same pathogen enters again, our body responds with the exact same intensity, whereas the adaptive immunity has memory. It remembers the past infection, meaning the subsequent responses are faster and stronger. It is called immunological memory. The fourth difference is the genetic basis. The innate immunity is present since you are born. It's not dependent on prior exposure, whereas the adaptive immunity develops after exposure to an antigen. It could be infection or vaccination. The last difference between these two immunities is the components. The innate immunity starts with physical barrier such as skin. It also has antimicrobial proteins and peptides in your tears, saliva, even under your skin. The cells of innate immunity contains phagocytes such as macrophages, dendritic cells, etc. The components of the adaptive immunity are T and B lymphocytes. In short, we call them T cells and B cells. Okay, we'll move on to the next topic, how immune system works. In this part, I'll explain you briefly the overview of how innate and adaptive immune system work together when pathogen enters our body. Let's say we have skin abrasions and pathogens enter our body through skin abrasions. The first attack to the pathogens is performed by antimicrobial proteins and peptides, which are located just beneath our skin. This is how our innate immunity starts killing the pathogen. This killing mechanism is followed by another killing mechanism by our innate immunity. And this event is done by our phagocytic cells, which compose of macrophages and dendritic cells. And this process is called phagocytosis. If our innate immunity controls the pathogens by itself, then our defense mechanism stops at that point and the skin heals by itself. However, if our innate immunity fails to control the pathogens, then some of the cells, such as dendritic cells, migrate through the blood vessels and lymphatic channels, travel towards the nearby lymph nodes where they meet with T and B lymphocytes. Remember, these are the cells of adaptive immunity. When T and B cells recognize that the pathogens are in the body, then they are activated and differentiated into effector T and B cells. B cells differentiate into plasma cells and secrete antibodies. T cells differentiate into effector T cells and produce cytokines. So these antibodies and cytokines travel towards the site of pathogens, and both innate and adaptive immunity work together against these pathogens. This is how our innate and adaptive immunity work when pathogens enter our body. I hope this short video presentation is helpful for you. If you like it, please subscribe and share. I really appreciate it.